May I have a mover and seconder to call? May I have a mover and seconder to call the meeting to order, please? I have Councillors Garwood and Moore. That the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of February 7th, 2024 come to order at 6:42 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. Please join me in the singing of the national anthem. O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us commend. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. I will note that Councillor Thompson sends his regrets for this evening. Council, at this time, is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? And not seeing any, I would also like to introduce Director Heron, our new Director of Planning and Development. So thank you very much and welcome. Welcome to the team. I will now at this time call upon CEO Schmidt for the presentation of our service awards.
Good. Test. Good to go. Okay. Thank you. So good evening, Mayor Coughlin, Deputy Mayor Cabral, members of council, township staff, and our distinguished guests. As the CEO for the Township of Springwater, it's my pleasure to be here this evening to honor those team members who have devoted their time, talent, and passion to the success and growth of our municipality by celebrating their milestone years of service. We have several individuals with us here this evening being recognized, and they span across various departments within the organization, each making an impact on the township and the community as a whole. I'd like to start by recognizing those individuals who in 2023 reached their 5-year milestone, service milestone with the township. And so I'd request that those individuals that may be in the audience here tonight, when I mention your name or call your name, please come up and I'll present you with your certificate and your service pin. And for those members of council that wish to also send their congratulations, by all means, I invite you up. And for those individuals that may be with us virtually tonight, by all means, turn on your camera, give us a little wave, and we will also recognize yourselves. So first off, if we can, next slide, please. So our first individual is Brittany Fisher. Brittany is a coordinator in our building services department who's celebrating 5 years. I don't believe Brittany is with us tonight, unfortunately. Next slide, please. Next, we have Katie Naray, who is a junior plans examiner, interim inspector in our building services department, again, celebrating 5 years. And I don't believe Katie is with us this evening. So next up, next slide, we have Cheryl Thompson, and Cheryl Thompson is a tax and utility coordinator in our finance department. And Cheryl is with us this evening. So Cheryl, please approach.
Oh, that's all right. That's I know.
Okay, so moving along, our next individual celebrating 5 years is Jennifer Marchand. And Jennifer is our manager of safety, learning, and employee relations in our people and talent department. Jennifer is not able to join us this evening. So next we have Deborah Ann Lisk, who is a planner in our in our planning and development department, again, celebrating 5 years. And Deb is not able to be with us this evening. So next up, we have Mr. Greg Goss, who is a foreperson in our Roads and Fleet Department, again celebrating 5 years. And again, unfortunately, Greg is not able to join us this evening. So next up, we have, so these two individuals were maybe not as willing to have a picture, and that's fine, but we still wanted to celebrate them as well. So first up, we have Mr. Joseph Van Larhoven, a truck driver laborer in our Roads and Fleet Department, again, reaching the 5-year milestone. And we also have Anita Shanks, a building inspector in our Building Services Department, who is actually with us this evening. So Anita, please come up. So next up, we actually have our 10-year service award recipients. And so first up, we have Nicole Adet, who is our communications coordinator in our corporate services area. And Nicole is not able to join us here this evening. So next we have Brittany Kellington, who is our supervisor of municipal law enforcement in our corporate services department. And unfortunately, again, Brittany is not able to join us this evening. We also have Mr. Chris Russell, who's our manager of planning services in our planning and development department. Unfortunately, Chris was not able to join us. And also we have some other stranger here next up that has also been with the township for 10 years. So
Yes.
So next we have a few staff that are actually celebrating their 15. I knew I was going to mess that up. So 15 years with the municipality. So first up, we have Mr. Steve Buchanan. Just give me one sec here. So Steve has completed a number of contracts with the township prior to receiving the position of full-time routine patroller in 2008. From here, Steve moved on to the operations technician position in 2010. And Steve is always eager to expand his knowledge and assist where possible. And in 2016, Steve took on the additional responsibilities of the drainage superintendent. So thank you, Steve, for your 15 years of dedicated service to the township. So next we have Mr. Chris Nichols, who is also receiving his 15 years of service. Chris began his career with the municipality as a summer student before becoming a full-time recreation assistant in 2008. In 2010, Chris took on the role of outdoor maintenance worker. And most recently in 2013, he has moved into the position of equipment operator in the roads and fleet department. Unfortunately, Chris was not able to join us tonight, but again, thank you, Chris, for your 15 years of service to our community. And next up, we have Mr. Mike Ummels. Mike began with the township in 2008 as a truck driver laborer, and he then was promoted to equipment operator in our roads and fleet department in 2013. And unfortunately, Mike was not able to join us this evening as well. But again, thank you, Mike, for your continued dedication to Springwater. And so next, we have our 20-year service award recipients, so 20. And I think we can all agree that 20 years of service is no small feat and takes dedication and commitment. So first up, we have Mr. Scott Trace, who's again receiving his 20 years service award. Scott has been an equipment operator in our roads and fleet department since 2003. And throughout his 20 years, I'm sure that Scott has seen many changes, but he is known for his consistent dedication to the role. So again, Scott was not unfortunately able to join us here this evening. But again, thank you, Scott, for your unwavering dedication to Springwater. and for your ongoing commitment to making this township a beautiful place to be. So, and finally, we have Mr. Brent Spagno, who celebrated 20 years with the township in 2023. Mr. Spagnol was in the township's planning department, joined the planning department in November 2003. In 2011, he was promoted to the manager of planning and further promoted to director of planning services and bylaw in 2016. Most recently, Brent held the title of director of planning and development, director of planning services before taking the next step in his career, where he's joined our friends in Oromadante as their new director of development service. So again, Brent was unable to join us this evening. He's actually participating in a similar event this evening, not service awards, but in the council meeting. So just wanted to say congratulations to each of our recipients this evening, and thank you all for what you do for this municipality on a day-to-day basis. And with that, Mayor Coghlan, council, thank you very much. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, CEO Schmidt. I will now call upon Josh Maltlow, President of the Barrie Baycats, to do a presentation for council. Welcome, Josh.
Can everyone hear me?
We can, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Council, for having me. I'm just going to share my screen. All right. So a little bit about us. If you haven't heard or know who we are, I represent the Barrie Baycats. I'm the president of the organization. I've been a part of the organization since 2005 as a player, came back in 2019, and had to go through the COVID years. So a little bit about us, if you're not familiar, we've been established since 2001, and our home is the Township of Springwater. We are located in the Barrie Sports Complex since 2001. We are a non-profit organization. We currently work with 12 plus charitable organizations in Simcoe County for various campaigns. We host charity baseball game for the Barrie Food Bank, Home Runs for the Hungry. We started last year before our season. We're going to be doing it again this year. We host summer camps for kids, over 300 kids, ages 5 to 14 years. That's grown over the years and will continue to grow. We have also been a tenant at the Barrie Sports Complex at Vintage Throne Stadium, it's now called, for 23 years. And we currently have 121 sponsors in Simcoe region. That was in 2023. And we are extremely, and I push the word extremely, dependent on sponsorship and support to run our program. For many, many, many years, this Township of Springwater has been a supporter and a sponsor. Since COVID, things have changed and we lost sponsorship. So I'd like to bring that to everyone's attention. I know things changed over, I was told, but what you guys did was a full page ad in our program. So it was the inside cover, as you can see on the left-hand side. And there was an outfield sign, a 10 by 6 foot banner on the outfield wall for a total of $2,500 as support. My proposal is to continue the sponsorship, as we've missed out a few years already, and again are very dependent. It's a $2,500 sponsorship package to help support the Barrie Baycats and go towards advertising of the Township of Springwater in exchange to all of Simcoe region across our platforms, which have grown immensely over the years. We are also now on television to all Simcoe region, thanks to Rogers TV. It shows the support of our hometown. It helps to show not only the other teams in the league, but travelers outside of our township, the support of our township offers, where we play and where we're located. Currently, we did receive a $5,000 grant from Tourism Barrie and recognized as a program to help grow visitation to the county. As well, we get $1,000 from the city of Barrie Rec as an infield banner. It's just a little ironic that the Township of Springwater, where we actually play at this point, does not support. So we're asking for your support so that we can help grow this thing. And that's all. Thank you for your support, and we hope to continue to support each other this season and into the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. At this time, council, I'm just going to have a mover and seconder to get it on the floor. I have Councillors Fisher and Deputy Cabral. And at this time, the motion reads that the delegation from Josh Maltlow regarding the Barrie Baycats sponsorship request be received. Councillor, are there any questions or comments? I'm not seeing any at this time. So thank you very much, council. All those in favor? And that has carried. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
We will now move on to a question period, and I will turn to Clerk Ainsworth to see if there has been any submissions.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. There has been one submission for this evening's meeting. The submission is from Amanda Robson from Hillsdale. And
We still, I'm sorry for interrupting. We still have the delegation on screen. Thank you. Thank you. My apologies.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. The submission is from Amanda Robson of Hillsdale, and she states, "We are concerned and disappointed at the poor advertising of the recent Trails Master Plan open house on January 23rd. Despite providing our email address at a previous open house, we were not contacted by the Parks and Rec Department before the event. Using social media to communicate important events is not an effective tool. Why was the monthly Township of Springwater newsletter, which is mailed to all residents, not used? Many residents across the township were not aware this event was taking place, resulting in a very low turnout at the open house. Members of council were also not notified ahead of time, and they also missed the opportunity to meet with the members of the public. Communication needs to improve, and residents are tired of being shut out of the process."
Okay, sir. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to turn to CEO Schmidt. I know that there has been dialogue, and if you could just update council on that, please.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So through you to members of council, upon receiving the item from Clerk Ainsworth, I did respond to the resident indicating that apologizing on behalf of staff for this oversight here, and that essentially I did forward the presentation material that was provided at the January 23rd open house to the resident, indicated to them that the township is still seeking feedback and insight from members of the public, provided them a link to the survey that they could complete. And in addition to that, also mentioned to them that if they weren't comfortable submitting comments through the survey and or wanted an easier path, I guess, if you will, they could just submit their comments directly to myself through an email, and then I would forward it directly to the consultants. Since that email exchange, I have had the opportunity to speak to staff. One of the challenges, I guess, that we encountered and why it didn't show up in the direct mailer was the timing of when the direct mailer went out versus the timing of when we actually confirmed the session with the consultant. So the date and time were not confirmed before the direct mailer was sent out to members of the public. As noted, we did use social media. Again, yes, not everybody's on social media. And further to my discussion with staff, we're in a position where we would consider or would like to actually have another public open house for the public, advise council, and ensure that members do have the opportunity to attend another session. So that is what staff is prepared to do.
Thank you, CEO Schmidt. I have Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, CEO Schmidt. I did speak with the resident in question and then with CEO Schmidt as well. So I do appreciate the fact that we are willing to move forward with another open house. I would strongly encourage that. I think although surveys are great, if we're going to have open houses, people want to come out and have their voices and opinions heard. So it's important that they're given proper notice. I think it's very important that council is also given notice. I know I watch for these things, especially with the trails. It's a concerning topic. I know in my ward, I know it's in Anton Mills as well. Dennis Gannon wrote an article in the Springwater News and commented on the lack of attendance, the poor attendance. So I know I always push that out to the people that I know when we're having these open houses, because it does give them an opportunity. I am hoping that we will move forward with a second open house and ensure that we do have the appropriate means of communication and notice. Thank you.
Our Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just curiosity, not trying to put anybody on the spot, but when it came time to set the date, I'm just wondering, is it township that would be the one to dictate when the date was, or does it sound like the consultant is the one who's dictating when these open houses take place? I'm just curious to know, like, I would think since we're paying the consultants, we should be dictating the date.
Manager Jean?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through yourself to the deputy mayor and the rest of the council. So I would say it's a partnership kind of on determining the date. So part of it is obviously finding availability within council and around other council meetings and public open houses, as well as availability of the consultant as they may have other projects they're working on as well. So this one, with budget happening at the end of this year, this one was a little harder pegging down a date on in the timing. So we are working with the consultant for looking at another date for it and potentially pushing out the time frame a bit to allow for some further timing for communications.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the gallery this evening? And not seeing any at this time, we'll move on to item 6, our minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the approval of the council minutes, please? Deputy Cabral and Councillor Fisher, that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. Our minutes of the special meeting of council on January 11th, 2024. 2, the minutes of the special meeting of council closed session of January 11th, 2024. 3, the minutes of the special meeting of council of January 17th, 2024 at 5 p.m. 4, the minutes of the regular meeting of council of January 17th, 2024 p.m. 5, the minutes of the special meeting of council of January 17th, 2024 at 8 p.m. 6, the minutes of the special meeting of council of the closed session of January 17th, 2024 at 8 p.m. And 7, the minutes of the special meeting of council of January 24th, 2024. Are there any questions or comments on these minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that has carried. And may I have a mover and seconder to receive the committee minutes, please? I have Councillor Garwood and Councillor Moore, that the minutes of the boards and committees listed herein be received for information. The Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting of December 12th, 2023. And that is all we have. If there's any questions or comments on that, not seeing any, that has carried. And at this time, I will be passing the chair to Deputy Cabral as I have brought forward the item for correspondence. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Next item on the agenda is in respect of a correspondence and information items. Item 7.1, resolution re-amendment to the OHSA to clarify the definition of employer. Town of Plimpton, Wyoming, dated January the 15th, 2024. Item 1.4 in the January 19th, 2024 council information package, and it's submitted by Mayor Coughlin. And I would ask Mayor Coughlin if she'd like to speak to it, and also she might be interested in reading off the recommendation herself.
Thank you. And at this time, I would just ask, you would ask for a seconder.
Oh, could I have a seconder, please? Councillor Garwood. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can read I'll switch your sheets. You gave me yours.
Oh, did I? I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Oh.
Thank you. That Council of the Township of Springwater endorse the resolution from the City of Greater Sudbury and recognize resolutions from other Ontario municipalities such as the Town of Plimpton, Wyoming, petitioning the province to amend the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer, to exclude owners that have contracted with a constructor for a project, and that the resolution be sent to the Honorable Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario, the Honorable David Pinchy, Minister. Do I have to read all these out? No. Okay, perfect. And then it was actually through consultation with CAO Schmidt, who did bring this to my attention. So I would ask then for comment from CAO Schmidt.
Yep. Go ahead, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to members of council. So to provide a little bit of background to members of council that may not be aware of this matter. So there was an incident in the city of Greater Sudbury some time ago here, where essentially they had contracted out a third party to undertake some construction works or infrastructure works for their municipality. And in doing so, there was an unfortunate accident where one of the employees for the contractor ended up unfortunately hitting a pedestrian, and it ended up killing the individual. And so through this court process, it was determined that essentially the city of Greater Sudbury was at fault as well, even though they had hired a third-party contractor to undertake the work and had tried to ensure that they had minimized the risk as much as possible. This decision essentially has now put municipalities in Ontario in a position whereby we will be in a much more significant position for accepting risk should these things happen in the future. So this resolution is really to try to support the province in clarifying what that definition of employer is and trying to, again, push back to the province on minimizing risk for Ontario municipalities. So maybe I'll pause there, and if there's any questions, happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, CO Schmidt. Further comment, Mayor Coughlin?
I have nothing further.
Other members of council have any comments or questions? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. I turned too quick there.
Sorry.
Councillor
Through you to CO Schmidt. So in the case, in Sudbury's case, was the third party not insured, or did the claimant sue both parties in this case?
Through you, Mr.
CO
Chair.
Schmidt?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Councillor Fisher. I'll be honest with you, Councillor Fisher, I don't know all the particulars of the case. My understanding was there was insurance in place. Everything was in place. Just so happened that I guess the individual was killed, unfortunately. A claim came forward, and the courts determined that the city, greater city of Sudbury, was also at fault. And usually when we go out and we do undertake a number of construction projects, usually we pass on that risk to the contractor. This decision essentially is saying, no, we're the employer. So even though the individual doesn't work for us per se, like the employee, if you will, they work for the contractor. Because we've hired the contractor, they essentially are defining we're responsible for all their employees and all their actions. And so it's a big case. It's a huge case in Ontario, and call it another form of download if you want to call it that. But essentially, they're pushing more responsibility or risk onto Ontario municipalities, and we're trying to somewhat push back, if you will.
All on, Councillor Fisher? Anyone else on council member have a question or no? Then call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. I'll turn the chair back over to Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Deputy Cabral. We are now moving on to our actions reports. May I have a mover and seconder to approve the action reports, please? I have Deputy Cabral and Councillor Moore. That action report listed 8.2 through 8.3 be received. 8.4, that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. I have 8.2, the 2024 Celebrate Springwater Township 30th Anniversary Event. 8.3, Cycle Simcoe Grant Application Partnership Opportunity, and 8.4, the 2021 10-PW GBAPPC Supply and Delivery of Bulk Highway Salt. Are there any questions on any of these? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that has carried. At this time, we have our information reports, and we have one before us. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Garwood and Councillor Alexander, that the report listed herein be received for information, and it is our monthly bi-monthly bylaw, our bylaw service monthly report of December 2023. Any questions on this report? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that has carried. And we are now moving on to our verbal reports, and I will turn to CO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So just a quick update to members of council and the public. So the stage 3 agreement that council authorized staff and Claire Rose to enter into has been now fully executed, and work has commenced on Finley Mill. From what I understand, it commenced either today or yesterday. They were getting set up. So the first part of that is they're working on installing the sanitary force main. And so they have, like I said, commenced work there. There is a detour set up, there's signage set up. So I'm sure you'll maybe get some responses from residents. And so there was notification provided to members of council. So if you're receiving any complaints from residents, there is a contact number there and email where I would suggest that you forward some of those comments to, and that individual or those individuals will respond. And if you're getting any comments back from residents indicating that they're not receiving a response, then I would ask that you please reach out to myself, and we'll make sure that definitely those comments or those concerns are addressed as quickly as possible. Beyond that, I would say that we're still waiting on some information regarding the ultimate wastewater treatment plant. That infrastructure has been tendered. I have not heard yet, and I don't believe that it's been awarded yet. So we're still waiting to hear back from the development group as to when they plan on awarding that infrastructure. And that's really all I have for this evening.
CEO Schmidt. And now I'll move on for our county updates. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I do apologize. I don't have a county update. It was a pretty lean meeting is what I remember. But unfortunately, I don't have a county update per se specific to Springwater.
Well, I would like to provide that for council. Unfortunately, one of our colleagues was needed to leave the meeting, and I assisted in that. So I left the meeting at that time after our closed session. So I don't have any insight to that. And we move on to our municipal updates at this time. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Bear with me, I have quite a few. The first item I wanted to call out was I wanted to say congratulations to Elmville resident Ty McCutcheon. Again, Elmville resident and is a member of the U18 curling team Ontario 2 men's champions. Ty and the team are currently in Ottawa right now competing in nationals with teams across the country. So Elmville is rooting on Ty and the U18 Ontario 2 curling team. Excitement is also building in Elmville locally around the Saginaw Spirit team coming to the Elmville Community Arena on Wednesday, February the 14th for a practice and autograph session. This event starts at 6 p.m. and the team practice will last an hour before players head upstairs so that all fans can get autographs from these young and up and coming stars. The price per admission for this event is a non-perishable food item towards the Elmville Food Bank. So if you're looking for something to do on Valentine's Day, that's where you'll be. That's where I'm going. I don't know if my wife's thrilled about it, but that's where I'll be. On January the 23rd, while at the Rural Ontario Municipalities Conference, Mayor Coughlin, Councillor Thompson, CEO Schmidt, and I met with the Ministry of Long-Term Care Parliamentary Assistant MPP John Jordan and the Ministry of Long-Term Care staff at the Roma Conference. During the delegation, we focused on the need for the provincial government to put measures in place to construct more housing, specifically long-term care spaces, by expanding existing licenses and providing more funding opportunities for new capital infrastructure projects. The delegation was well received, and we wanted to thank the ministry again for their time. In a couple of weeks, I guess next week now, the Elmville CRA is hosting our very first Family Fun Fest at Homer Barrett Park from 9 a.m. to 1. We had hoped for some snow, so this is the one time of year that I'm crossing my fingers we actually get some snow. But if not, we have a couple alternatives planned. So it's free for all members of the community to come on out, enjoy. We're going to have a fire similar to what the Midhurst CRA has done in the past at their space, which is fantastic. And we have lots going on. So we're quite excited about that. Speaking about Homer Barrett Park, the parking lot will remain open and clear of snow. I know there isn't snow right now, but again, clear of snow this winter season. I know that was a request from the community, so I did want to thank Manager Dean and her team for working through that and ensuring access to the park for all residents, especially those traveling into town to utilize the space. The Elmville CRA is going to also be hosting a St. Patrick's Day dance on March the 16th in Elmville at the Elmville Community Hall. Tickets will be on sale soon in regards to that. And the last item I wanted to mention was A little shout out, today is my son Abel's first birthday. So I thought, again, he's in bed definitely, and not that he would know anyway, but a little shout out to him, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Garwood. Any other minutes of updates? Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. The Roma Conference was held this year, January 21st to 23rd at the Sheraton Hotel downtown Toronto. I registered November 1st. As it turns out, all members of council actually attended this year. So you know, it's a Sunday to Tuesday, typical conference, registration on Sunday, trade show opens, there's a few speakers, full day being Monday. Doug Ford speaks, opposition leaders speak, breakout sessions, you get the drift. Tuesday is wrap up. I received a call late Monday evening from a councillor at a neighboring township. He was wondering why I hadn't been at the sponsored dinner. So I replied I knew nothing about it. But this sponsor in particular for wards 4 and 5 is one of the largest and longest standing service partner relationships that we have in this township. So that was strange. After a little digging, I called, and as it turns out, the invitation went through the mayor, extended to all of council, who was requested to call back with the numbers who would be attending. She returned the call to say 3 would be in attendance, inferring that all 7 had been invited, but only 3 would be attending. I explained the situation to our service partner and that the other 4 members, including our deputy mayor, would absolutely have been in attendance to show support, but we were not invited and we were unaware of the event. He acknowledged seeing us on the Monday, saying hello, and thought it strange that we weren't coming considering we were all there, but he didn't want to ask. He then became very apologetic. I was apologetic on behalf of all the other members of council. We both acknowledged that obviously there needs to be more than one point of contact in the future, and that this was a very awkward moment for both of us. So obviously this is about more than a dinner invitation, but this is embarrassing for everyone. And it begs the question, what other information has deliberately been kept from council? The withholding of information affects trust and relationships and can lead to misunderstandings, conflicts, and damaged relationships. The act of keeping secrets raises questions about honesty, transparency, and the potential harm caused with withholding the truth, not just for council members, but for the township's accountability and public image. Transparency is vital in maintaining a positive brand perception and building long-term relationships with stakeholders. Now, before you say it was an oversight, let me remind you that several days before this, the mayor followed 3 members of council who had gone to a restaurant for something to eat after a council meeting. She followed them, showed up unannounced, unexpected, sat down, and when it was immediately brought to her attention by me that she now made quorum, her response was, "F it." Just let that sink in. When the discussion of Roma came up and she was asked to explain evenings, hospitality suites, etc., and I said, well, I'm not aware of anything. She said nothing about the sponsored dinner. And it's not within the mayor's purview to decide for council members what information they receive or don't. I've brought the Municipal Act with me and I can clearly read what the head of council is supposed to do, what council is supposed to do, and it doesn't say that there. So my question really for the mayor is threefold. First, should I bring a motion forward that says the mayor be directed to disseminate all information as requested to do so to all members of council by anyone that so requests? Seems like a no-brainer. Number 2, that no council members will attend said conferences or sponsored events in the future. And number 3, that the mayor commits to ending this high school nonsense now.
Thank you. I will actually turn, before I do turn to the clerk for the definition of quorum. I spent the conference learning and networking with stakeholders and politicians from across the county and the province. I was invited into conversations, to many meals, hospitality suites, and many delegations with provincial ministers as deputy warden of the county of Simcoe, vice chair of Tatmo, and while only one delegation with the minister as the mayor of Springwater Township, to which you were invited and declined to attend. Over the last 16 months, I have extended many invitations, attended many events and training opportunities, and sent many emails to which members of council have left unattended and not responded. As mayor, I will continue to use my discretion, and just as I have ended every email to you, please feel free to reach out to me with any concerns or questions. And if now, I would prefer to get back to relative municipal business. I do agree that this is high school, and I do agree that communication goes two ways. As far as quorum, 4 members of council are permitted to be together as long as municipal business is not being moved forward. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. But you really didn't answer my question. My question is, why would you do that?
Councillor Moore, and
In this situation, why would you do that?
Councillor Moore, and I believe that when I did show up the Wednesday before that, I was very clear as to why. And I do believe that there is a division amongst this council. And I think that the division is not created by one person. The division is the responsibility of 7 people at this table. And understanding that there was numerous times throughout the last 16 months, whether it's a parade, a flag raising, any opportunity, I will continue to use discretion. And there has been numerous opportunities for members of council to become involved and engaged, and those opportunities were not taken. So no, I did not extend the invitation. Follow on?
So I would like to know where it says, for the role of head of council, where it says, I can use my discretion on whether or not I pass along information or invitations as requested to all members of council. I don't see that here, and I'd be happy to read to you what the job description states.
I'm sorry, I thought are you reading?
Want to?
I'm very well aware of it, but that's you have the microphone as well.
Sure. So the role of head of council says to act as chief executive officer of the municipality, to preside over council meetings so that its business can be carried out efficiently and effectively, to provide leadership to the council, without limiting cause, to provide information and recommendations to the council with respect to the role of council, to represent the municipality at official functions, and to carry out the duties of the head of council under this or any other act. And I will say too, that under the role of council, it doesn't say anything more than to represent the public and to consider the well-being and interests of the municipality, to develop and evaluate policies and programs, to determine which services the municipality provides, to ensure that administrative policies, practices, and procedures and controllership policies, practices, and procedures are in place to implement the decisions of council. Particular importance, to ensure the accountability and transparency of the operations of the municipality, including the activities of the senior management of the municipality, and to maintain financial integrity of the commissioning of the municipality. Nowhere does it say use my discretion.
Thank you. And further to that, understanding at the beginning of the term, there was emails that would go out about updates. Has there been any communication from other members of council seeking an update, seeking clarification? Anytime I've ever sent an email, it says any further clarification or questions, please contact me. And I have not been contacted. Okay. Councillor Fisher and then Deputy Cabral.
How would we know to contact you over something we were never told about? Anyway, I have something to say as well. Anyway, I'll start from the top. I'm concerned over the non-transparent and divisive pattern of behavior on the part of our mayor and other members of council. I've often felt that as chair, our mayor has favored certain members of council. I was taken aback last year when the mayor visited 3 schools in Springwater, inviting Councillor Garwood to a school in his ward and excluding both Councillor Alexander and myself from schools in our wards. I have dismissed these incidences in the past. However, knowingly withholding correspondence, both written or verbal, from council members warrants being mentioned. The decision to exclude and hide an invitation from council members that was extended to us from a major firm that Springwater uses as a consultant on a regular basis shows incredibly poor judgment in my eyes. This could have caused irreparable damage to the relationship that the municipality and councillors have with this particular firm. This particular firm may have felt that members of council from Springwater were apathetic towards the valuable work they do for us. Members of council like myself may have felt that their opinions and their wards did not matter to the management at said firm. With Springwater undergoing such tremendous growth, why would a mayor put crucial relationships in jeopardy? As a mayor, you've often said that this is a divided council. With actions like this, how could it not be divided? I believe as elected officials, we represent the best interests of the taxpayers of Springwater, not benefit ourselves. That is why I was shocked to see 3 members of council go to Toronto a day early with their spouses and stay in upscale hotel rooms on the taxpayers' dime. The Roma Conference is an event for municipal politicians and staff to gain insights into topics that pertain to their work. It is not a venue for weekend outings with one spouse. Hearing Councillor Garwood mention to 3 other councillors that he had not registered for this important working event until late in the day on Sunday afternoon was concerning. What was he doing for the first day of the conference if he was not registered? Why would Councillor Garwood and his spouse need a hotel room for the Saturday night if he was not registered? It is my opinion that this is a blatant misuse of taxpayers' money. I ask with behavior like this, how can you say we're morally representing the taxpayer? I would like to cite from our code of conduct that councillors shall be reimbursed for reasonable expenses incurred in the performance of their activities connected with legitimate municipal purposes. As a member of council and a taxpayer, I would like to see those 3 members of council reimburse to the taxpayer the expenditures incurred by them and their spouses on the Saturday night in Toronto at the Roma Conference.
Before I do turn to Councillor Garwood for comment, again, and I will allow this to continue because it is about me and I have had conversations with that before. Firstly, after I attended the schools and you were concerned that I did not invite you, was there any communication to me expressing that concern?
As I said in my statement, I've let those things pass. I've decided to be like many of us have on council, to be the bigger person. But frankly, when we run into situations like this, where you have knowingly kept, and other councillors, I might add, right? The blame doesn't rest solely on you. Other councillors knowingly withhold information from us. I think that's when a pattern of behavior becomes concerning. So to answer your question, Mayor Coughlin, would I call it nitpick on every particular instance? No, I absolutely wouldn't, But when these instances show a pattern of behavior, and when things like councillors, particularly councillors that are experiencing major growth in their area, are not even told about an invitation, I think it warrants being mentioned.
And thank you for that. And I'm not going to discard the fact that I absolutely did not invite members of this council to that dinner. I will tell you that the invitations to the school were given to me by Trustee Grummett, and it was not asked to invite anyone else. The invitation to Councillor Garwood did not go through me. So that was an assumption on your part, just as it's an assumption on your part that I was in Toronto in a hotel room on the Saturday night, because I absolutely was not. So those are assumptions that you have made and not clarified. I'm going to Councillor Garwood, as I said, and then I can come back to you.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm going to take this one slow and take it calm. Councillor Fisher mentioned me twice, so I'm going to just speak on the 2 things that mention my name because I'm not going to get in the weeds here. The invite that I attended a school visit in Elmvale came from a teacher at that school that is a resident in the ward that I was elected. That same invite was also returned this year, and I'm going there next month. Again, if you'd like, I can send you an email and let you know. Second, I'm not quite sure where you're getting that I wasn't registered for the Roma conference on Sunday. Staff here who submitted the registration can confirm that I was registered for all 3 days of the Roma conference. I attended sessions Sunday morning as I had the entire time. I was there Sunday. Well, I got there Saturday. I was there Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, stayed through to the delegation at the very end, and then I departed Tuesday afternoon. I was there for the full time of the conference. I attended many sessions. I ran into Councillor Alexander in a session, I believe, on the Sunday. Could have been the Monday. I'd have to look at the schedule. For you to sit here and accuse a member of council of something without having a conversation beforehand is extremely inappropriate. You could have reached out to me. You could have had this conversation with me. I did see members of council, yes. I remember speaking to 3 members of council in the lobby of the hotel. Yes, I did have a hotel room on Saturday evening. Why that was the case? That's the information I received. I didn't ask explicitly to be down there a night before. I asked to be registered and to have a hotel booked. Just as other members did, I didn't specify the dates or the times that I was going to be there. A hotel was booked for me. I drove down there in my vehicle and I went to the conference. Nor did I submit any additional expenses at said conference. Not one dinner, paid for myself on Saturday, paid for myself on Sunday, not one lunch, not one breakfast, nothing. I submitted my travel. That is it. If you want to look back to previous conferences that I've attended, I went and I submitted no expenses, not even mileage, and that was to London. So you cannot sit here and accuse me of misusing municipal dollars without having a conversation. That is the respectful thing to do, Councillor Fisher. We've worked together long enough now. I would give you the same respect. I absolutely deserve it in return.
Deputy Cabral.
Councillor Garwood, you mentioned being ethical. Do you think it is ethical to go to a function that was extended to all of council, knowing that we were excluded? And I asked, well, frankly, I asked the public, do you think it would be ethical for me to go to a working conference and take my spouse for the weekend? I'm not asking you to answer that. I'm sure the public can answer that for themselves. It is their tax dollars, right? So if you want to talk about being ethical, and frankly, Councillor Garwood, we seem to disagree on more than a few matters. So no, I didn't reach out to you. But I feel that frankly, knowingly, it's bad enough for the mayor to exclude us. But I think you know that you kept that from other members of council as well. So if we want to talk about ethics, it's called lying through omission. And I'm sorry, I won't be chastised by you.
Thank you. I absolutely brought my husband as a guest, and there was $0 accrued to the municipality by him attending. He didn't get his own hotel room. He didn't attend the conference, and anything again that we've done together, there was absolutely $0 accrued. So having a second person in the hotel room does not increase the costs nor the mileage. That I'm failing to see the logic in that. I have Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Actually, I just have a couple of comments based on the conversation thus far. One, I do recall in the previous term, there was a golf tournament by the same organization that the mayor and the deputy mayor attended at that time. And the rest of council members were not privy to that or invited. So I kind of go back to that. This was an issue that came up that long ago. Based on what I'm hearing now, I find it very disconcerting that some members of council were provided a room Saturday night. I certainly wasn't. I also am a little bit miffed because I was not aware of this dinner per se. I think it's an opportunity for us to recognize the folks that we work with. It's an extension of them to us, to meet them in more of a social environment and get to know them a little bit and recognize them maybe for some of the work that they do. But what I find most disappointing and disconcerting is the fact that this obviously is not the first time that it happened, because I don't recall being invited or being apprised of a dinner at Roma last year, which from what I understand is what typically happens with this particular vendor that works closely with the township. So when we talk about, is there a pattern? I'm disappointed because it seems to me that there might be. Is there a sense of favoritism? I'd have to say, looking from outside in, certain members of council got a room on Saturday night without asking for it. Yet other members who registered didn't get a room Saturday night. Not that I care, because I was specific. I only wanted one room Sunday night to Monday to go to the events that I knew I wanted to participate in. But I must say, I feel that for the other council members that were not privy to that, that going on the Saturday night, if it was standard practice, I don't recall last year going on the Saturday night either. So I'm just saying, if we're talking about a pattern, I can see one. I hate to say it. I'm disappointed. It's disconcerting. I think if somebody offers me an opportunity to go somewhere and someone said to me, can you invite all the other members of council? It wouldn't be up to me to decide for them. I would simply extend the invitation to them and let them respond accordingly. So is there a problem with what happened at Roma? I have to agree that there is. And it only serves to make this council more divisive than it was coming before Roma occurred. And when I think back to last year, Mayor Coughlin, you were the deputy mayor at the time. I don't know if you went to the dinner. I don't know if the mayor at the time, Don Allen, went to the dinner. But I know that I wasn't there because I didn't know anything about it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm disappointed and certainly disillusioned.
Thank you. And I will reiterate that, yes, I did not invite members of this council to a dinner. I did not extend that invitation, but the allegations or innuendos that this is a pattern of behavior. Again, these are assumptions that are being made, and this is not being communicated. So I will go to Councillor Alexander, as she has not had a chance to speak yet.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I was very disappointed when I did learn that there was an invite that was extended to all of council and that did not get passed on. I understand that there are numerous events that you do pass on invites to, and I try and decline. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. People are busy, they have a lot going on, they cannot attend everything. However, if the invite is out there, it should be put out to all members of council or whoever the invite was intended to go to. That is my issue. I feel by not extending the invite and deliberately choosing whom the invite was going to go to be honest, I feel like it shows a lack of leadership. Because I feel like we're supposed to, as the mayor, you're supposed to act as a leader. And I understand that there's divisiveness sometimes, but actions like this just make that divisiveness works, and it does not move us forward in a productive manner. So I am very disappointed.
Councillor Moore.
Mayor Coughlin, I just want to clarify one point, that Councillor Garwood, when we were sitting in the lobby, as you mentioned, of the hotel, and there was 3 of us sitting there, you're the one who came to us and said, what did you do today? We all kind of small talked, and you said, well, I haven't even registered. And I think it was the impression from Councillor Fisher that he was speaking about registration for the whole conference, but registration day was Sunday at noon. And what you had said was, I haven't been to the trade show. I haven't even registered. So it was about 7 o'clock in the evening. I think that's what Councillor Fisher was referring to. So that's just that piece of clarification.
At this time, I would like to move forward unless there's any Councillor Fisher.
I would just like to know when this vendor or this firm came forward and extended the invitation, it was extended to all members of council and you chose just to bring the three. Please clarify.
You are correct. You are correct. And I, as I said on the Wednesday before council, I went and I told you that you were going to see councils together dining. You were going to see members of council, lots of opportunities. I'm sure that the four, there's a 4 and a 3, and I'm sure that the 4 had dinners together, and there was zero communication between myself and other members of council, aside from Councillor Garwood and Councillor Thompson at the conference, other than bumping into each other. There was no planning. There was no which sessions are you going to? How are your delegations? I will tell you that I have spent 10 years building a network, and I have never relied on a mayor to do that. There has been numerous times throughout 3 terms to which I have walked in at conferences and seen the rest of council sitting at a table, and I wasn't there, nor was I invited. This has happened over and over again. This is not new, nor is it something that I feel that we continue to have this conversation. Councillor Fisher, I would like to move on from this.
Yep.
I provided numerous follow-ons, and I think
I'm just listening to your rationale, and by your rationale, you've said that other councils would be eating together. Was that an explanation that I had an invite to this? I don't think that I would take an invite from that statement that other councils would be together. Also, too, you saying that you've never relied upon a mayor to network. Well, are you telling me that I should hunt around for other firms to see if they're offering me a chance to correspond with them? I'm sorry, it's just not a very plausible explanation.
are there any other municipal updates at this time? Not seeing any. At this time, I would like to turn to Manager Dean for a update on the Grenfell Hall, please.
Thank you, Mayor Colgan, and through yourself to the rest of council. I'd just like to provide an update to council this evening on the Grenfell Community Hall update projects that are currently taking place. So our contractors are at the Grenfell Community Hall, and they have been working on the updates to the hall that were approved through a capital project. And currently, so it's kind of a facelift project for the Grenfell Community Hall. There's updates to the painting, updates to the windows, paintings of the floor. There's updates to the siding, so some repairs to siding, painting of siding, and doors throughout the facility, as well as the kitchen being renewed and replaced with new kitchens. So we're happy to say, so the painting has been completed, other than touch-ups and deficiencies that will happen at the very end of the project. The windows have been replaced. The interior doors have been replaced. The exterior doors were starting to be installed today, and that will continue through the rest of the week, as well as some electrical updates, and the kitchen installation is slated to happen by the end of the month. When the weather, I want to say warms up, although it's fairly warm right now, but when we're in true spring weather conditions, the painting of the outdoor siding of the facility will take place, as well as some other minor works on the exterior that would complete that project fully for the spring. But we do project to reopen it to the public with the internal updates completed sometime in March. By next week, I hope to have kind of a firm timeline on the kitchen installation, and then the painting would take place once the weather truly gets into spring and summer weather in the next couple months.
Thank you. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. Through you to Manager Dean. I've been by, and the hall is looking fabulous. So thanks for all your hard work. Is there going to, or are you planning for a grand opening, reopening, I don't know when the sign's being installed. I'm just looking for maybe a date, but I'd like to be able to tell people when the unveiling will be, and of course they can come by.
Manager Dean?
Thank you, Mayor Colgan, through yourself to Councillor Moore. I think, yes, let's definitely chat about some options on how we can kind of do a walkthrough, an open house, or a preview to the community for them to see the updates to the hall. And the sign, I am working with the sign company just on some mock-ups for the sign that was approved. And then again, the flagpole that was approved through this year will happen in the warmer months as well.
Or any further? And this time we'll move on to item 11, which is a notice of motion being brought forward by Councillor Garwood. I will turn to Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Whereas the council training.
Sorry, just ask for a seconder,
Mm.
please. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Whereas the council training and development budget is currently set at $2,000 per ward councillor and $4,500 for each mayor and deputy mayor. And whereas the dollar amount has not been adjusted for more than 10 years. And whereas due to increasing costs and to ensure members of council have the ability to attend adequate training opportunities, an increase in budget is warranted. Be it resolved that the ward councillors training and development budget for 2024 be increased by $1,500 each to be funded from the tax rate stabilization reserve, and that the council training and development budget for the 2025 and beyond be included in the annual operating levy and to be broken down as follows. Mayor, $4,500 remaining as is. Deputy Mayor, $4,500 remaining as is. Ward 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 councillors, $3,500 each.
Thank you. Councillor Garwood and then Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So just going through a few points that I wanted to discuss related to this motion. As we know, as noted in my the motion that was brought forward, the dollar amounts have not been adjusted for more than 10 years. We definitely know that the costs are rising in everything. And again, this would allow for council across the board to have the ability to attend adequate training opportunities throughout the year. In doing a bit of research, the AMO registration for a regular registration ranges between $899 and $965, and that's for a member rate. And the Roma registration, again, that is a regular rate, and that ranges between $730 and $795. Again, that excludes other expenses like mileage and hotels. Also, we know that training and development goes beyond just conferences and registrations. We know that AMO has a fantastic list of training opportunities offered throughout the year. You know, just in a couple moments, you know, I went through, AMO currently has 18 different training opportunities available, ranging from counselor training, which is almost $600, to municipal code of conduct, essential to good governance, again, almost $600, foundations and planning for elected officials, a couple $100. So these are all opportunities that I know members have participated in the past, whether it be this council or previous councils. And I also know that they would be something that personally I'm interested in. I know I've heard a couple other members of council as well speak about training opportunities that they are interested in to ensure that we're providing the best possible support and we have the most knowledge possible to support our residents. But I also think about the ability to continue lifelong learning. That's what I do in my day job. I work in continuing education and professional development, and understand that there's always an opportunity to learn and to have to have these continued experiences. Again, we swore an oath to exercise this office to the best of our knowledge and ability. And I know personally myself, just speaking for myself, there's always learning that can be done and opportunities that can be had. So looking at this and researching the costs associated, this would allow for ward councillors the ability to attend additional training opportunities beyond just conferences.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Excuse me. I won't be able to support this. This is a budgetary item, should come up at budget time. And at that time, it would be something that could be debated by council. I think the intent of the money or the funding was to attend a conference per year, not necessarily 2 or 3. If I look at the county's policy, they provide for 1 conference per year. The difference being they don't actually attach a dollar value to it. So I do have a problem with it, and basically this is a budget item. We just finished doing budget. We've told the residents, this is the money that we're going to spend. Here's where we're going to spend it on your behalf. I don't see the urgency in moving this forward at this point in time. If this is something that is brought up again at budget debate time come fall, that would be fine, but I can't support it right now.
Thank you. And the county policy is one conference a year plus one out of province conference per term. So make sure you. Sorry. I had Deputy Cabral and then I didn't have anything else written down. So I have Councillor Garwood and then Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Cabral. I appreciate that. And I'd be happy to bring this back up during budget next year. I did note in the budget, again, in the motion, just for clarification, that this year it would be funded through tax rate stabilization reserve, with this being included in the budget in 2025. But again, I can understand why you can't support this year or at this point in time, but hope to have your support during budget time if it doesn't pass tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just go to Clerk Ainsworth for clarification. If this was to fail this evening, it would require a reconsideration to be reconsidered. So I don't know if that's something Councillor Garwood would like to be mindful of, but I did say I would go. So I'll ask Clerk Ainsworth to confirm that, and then I will go to.
Thank you. I believe $2,000 in our personal accounts is more than enough. I do believe the reason was to go to one event per year. I think it more than suffices. But $1,500 per year per counselor is a lot of money. I also think, and I appeal to other counselors when I say this, it's people are experiencing a lot of hardship out there. The economy is not chugging along. I think the optics are really bad for counselors to ask for an extra $1,500 to really build their political resume. So I think there's more than enough money in the $2,000, and I would like to keep it that way. If it comes up in budget again, I would consider it. However, I think at this time, it's not the right thing for council to do.
Thank you. And I was going to Clerk Ainsworth for clarification.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. A reconsideration would be potentially required unless the motion or the request has a substantial change to it. The main focus of this one is the 24. Should a member of council wish to bring something for next year and beyond, it would be appropriate through the budget process. That way, without requiring a full reconsideration.
Yeah, I have Councillor Garwood and Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And just to clarify a few items as well, while there might be an assumption of an intent of one conference per year, I'm not currently aware of a policy that states one conference per year. I'd be happy to review if I am misunderstood in regards to an existing policy around how many conferences we attend per year. Of course, if the policy intended one, then the funds would be sufficient. Secondary to that, we know, again, I think about 90% of what I spoke about was not conferences, was the training that is available. I believe we all get the AMO emails like every other day that fill up our inbox. Got one yesterday that said counselor training and it was $1,575. So again, what I'm speaking to here is, first of all, clarification. These aren't personal accounts. These are training and development funds available to members of council that are elected that can be utilized to better ourselves, better serve our communities. And second of all, this is not padding a political resume. I think about the training opportunities that I've had personally this term so far. 2 conferences I've had the pleasure of attending, one last year, one this year. And it's funny, we drive to London, we drive to Toronto, and we end up meeting our neighbors in Tiny and Tay and Wasaga Beach, and build relationships that I didn't have before I went down to AMO in August or Roma a couple of weeks ago. Now I do. These are communities that border our municipality, and these are contacts and networks that we can gather and create. So I see that as an opportunity. I see that as a learning opportunity. I could keep going. I won't, because I know we're belaboring the point. But what I will say is this. At a conference at Roma a couple of weeks ago, I attended a session. I won't bring up the name of the session because it'll open up a whole other discussion. But that session, The immediate thing I went to is I came back and I talked about how incredible it was to hear what this smaller than Springwater community was doing in a middle of nowhere area in Ontario, and the incredible work that they were doing through their local BIA and through their local community work, and how they revitalized their little community. And I thought, wow, that is so neat. I would have never gathered that information. And the room was packed. And I actually believe Councillor Alexander was sitting in the same room listening to the same session. So these are valuable. 7 members thought it was valuable enough to take 3 days and go down. And many of us still have full-time jobs, and that's tough. And we took time off, we took time away, and we did that because it's valuable for our learning, so we can do the job that we stood there at that podium 16 months ago and said we were going to do to the best of our ability. So not to get back into the conference discussion, I can probably see where this is going here, but I absolutely think that reviewing existing policies that haven't been adjusted, but also thinking about the policies that we work on today need to live beyond this term. This was a policy implemented many years ago. The fund doesn't change in 10 years. But we also know that in 3, 13, 30 years, we might not be sitting here, but somebody else will. And these policies should be accessible for especially members. There's 4 new members sitting around this table right now. So again, I'll leave it there, but thank you, Mayor Colgan, for letting me go on.
And there's, just to confirm, there is nothing in the existing policies that states 1, the intent wasn't 1, it was a numerical value. Councillor Fisher?
Councillor Garwood, in 30 years, we might not be here. In 4 years, we may not be here. But I think that proves my point even more, that $7,500 a year on the taxpayer is not right when many of us may not be here in 4 years. It's not their job to educate us. And frankly, having an extra $1,500 in my account so I can go down and grow friendships with people, as you put it. Frankly, I can't stare my neighbors in the face and say that I'm okay with that. I think 2,000 is more than enough. I don't even think I spent anywhere near that last year. So I think the status quo is fine. And I'll reiterate, I think that quite honestly, when food banks in your very own ward are being used at an ever higher rate than in past years from middle class families within Springwater, I can't justify $1,500. I think it's tone deaf, and frankly, if I did it, I would expect people to call me greedy, and I can't wear that.
I have Alexander Cabell Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Although, like, I do agree that attending the conferences are very useful for us. I think professional development is always good. I think we sometimes maybe need to take a step back from regular professional development and where we are, in that we are elected and it is the taxpayers paying for it versus I get it as a corporation, but it's a corporation that is run by the people of this municipality and their tax dollars pay for it. I do see the value in them. I think there are many opportunities out there and we don't need to do them every year. I think we have the ability to go to Rome one year and then maybe AMO next year, or do an online one. There's a drainage one that I might want to try and go to. I also think we also have the ability, if it is that important to us, and again, with all professional development, that we do have the ability to use our own dollars to put towards something that especially is long-term professional development for us, that potentially shouldn't be put on the taxpayer. So that's, unfortunately, I can't support moving forward with additional funds at this time for it.
Thank you. And I have Deputy Cabral.
Just thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just quick. I think this policy actually is pretty good. It allows you the opportunity to look at the training funds that are available and allocate them the way you see fit. You want to go to 2 conferences, a big one, a small one, you can accommodate that. If you want to take 1 conference and go to a couple of online courses, that kind of thing, this allows you that flexibility. It could easily be changed to mirror the counties, which is basically you're going to go to a conference, and if it costs $1,500, that's what it costs. If it costs $700, that's what it costs. You determine which one you want to go to. But to simply say that we need more and more and more all the time. That's why I say if it comes up at budget time next year, you can only go to so many things. And I'll be quite honest with you, a lot of the stuff is redundant. It's the same people, generally speaking, 15 or 20% of the show might be something novel, might be something new. But the remainder of it, from the two that I've been to, there were some things there that really didn't fit the groove for Springwater Township, and there were other things that really, really did at Roma. I would have to say that last year's Roma conference, for me as a Springwater Township official, was far more satisfying than this year's as far as what was on tap.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to CAO Schmidt. Well, it's really not, sorry, it's more of a comment. But what I'm just recognizing is Councillor Garwood's speaking about lifelong learning, and I'm a big supporter of lifelong learning. And I think it's important for higher education especially. And I think that, you know, the education we would receive from any sort of training would far outlast our time on council. And we really should take a note out of your playbook and contribute to some of that education like we would outside of council. So as you did, because it is your professional development, as I do for mine, I think it's important that we put some skin in the game if we're really serious. And so I won't support this, but I'm always a supporter of education.
Thank you. And just one comment on the drainage. I definitely learned more from our staff. I did attend the Ridgetown drainage, and I did not take anything away from that. I was at the time Archer, and then through our drainage superintendent Buchanan, I failed to come home with any additional information that I didn't already have. But at that time, so I do have a mover and seconder for the notice of motion, and at this time I will call for the vote. All those in favor? And that has been defeated. And I have a notice of motion brought forward by Councillor Garwood and looking for a seconder. I can pass the chair. Do I need to pass the chair to second? I'm going to pass. Thank you, Councillor Alexander. And I will turn this to Councillor Garwood, please.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Whereas from time to time, a resident utility, sorry, let me just pull this back up here, get that better. There we go. Whereas from time to time, a resident utilizing township water and wastewater services may experience unfair water leaks beyond their control, resulting in an abnormally high water and wastewater bills. And whereas the township desires to investigate options to provide fair and equitable financial assistance to those residents. Be it resolved that council directs staff to report back on a policy to provide for a process and parameters around providing financial assistance to residents who experience abnormally high water and wastewater bills due to accidental water leaks. And further, that staff report back at the March 6th regular council meeting.
Continue, Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So again, just a few items here that I wanted to speak about. Again, by no means tonight am I saying that we should implement a policy. The purpose of this motion is for staff to review potential options by investigating what neighboring municipalities are currently doing with scenarios like this and to report back. We know that residents who endure a financial setback when an unexpected leak occurs, often it's no fault of their own. And potentially implementing an eventual policy would allow for conversations to start, staff to investigate, and make a decision based upon the eventual policy, if approved. I have spoken to multiple residents throughout this term, one more recently as well, experiencing this sort of setback. And what we absolutely can see and what we absolutely know is the water's been utilized. So we can't unutilize that water regardless or not if it's something that was in the resident's control or not. So we understand that water still has to be paid for. But some municipalities in Ontario have taken some interesting policies into place to review how that can happen. Currently, right now, there is no policy. There is no direction from this council in regards to any sort of concern. If a resident experiences this, staff can't dive into that conversation, and the only avenue for that resident would be a delegation to council and for us to discuss and decide. What I will leave you with is there's a few examples. For instance, the city of Hamilton recently, a year ago, announced a leak protection prevention program for homeowners. And an example of this would be qualifying leaks would be adjusted back. So the bills with the leak on it would be adjusted back to the average 12-month bill. So that's one example of one municipality. Another example would be the city of Waterloo, where the higher water bill adjustment policy that they have provides financial relief to customers with a normally high water bill. This happens when a property has a plumbing leak, a toilet, a faucet, a fixture, a hose, etc. Eligible residents can apply once every 10 years per property, and adjustment is capped at $2,000. And the rebate is calculated based upon the consumption over a 12-month average. So again, these are all things. I have 3 other examples I could go through, and I'm not going to take the time to do so tonight, but also know that approving a staff report would allow for staff to gather this information. I know the region of Muskoka as well, the city of Toronto. I could, again, keep going. So there's quite a few different solutions out there. Maybe the solution is to not have a policy, and it is to be restrictive, and that can be decided. I would hope we don't go that way, but again, that can come from a staff report and a discussion down the road. Thank you.
Councillor Fisher?
Yeah, ultimately, it's the consumer's responsibility once it enters their home. So what I'm hearing from you, Councillor Garden, correct me if I'm wrong, that if there is a mistake or a leak, that ultimately Springwater would be paying for it. The taxpayer would be paying for it. That's what I'm hearing. Also, to staff time in the future, if we're evaluating everyone's concerns, would we need extra staff members to evaluate exactly what is going on with all these particular instances? So, I think it's the responsibility of the homeowner, if I'm understanding it correctly. If I overfill my hot tub and it's not the taxpayer's responsibility. If there's a leak in my home, it's my responsibility. And I have some apartment buildings. I've had problems before, and I've had to pay those bills. It's unfortunate, but I don't see that it's the taxpayer's problem, if I'm understanding it correctly.
Before I do go to Councillor Garwood, moving forward with a policy or investigating whether a policy or not would be applicable to Springwater Township, I do think that we are moving from a situation where most of our residents are on private septic and well. And in the future, we will be moving towards having quite a few thousand more homes that will be on municipal services. And I think that taking a proactive approach and having something in place so that it's not a one-off every time. So there is a policy so that when residents do come to council, it doesn't differ. There is a set policy, and that's what staff are able to use as a tool to move forward. So I saw Deputy Cabral and then Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm going to also thank you for mentioning septics and well water, because a large number of our residents are on that. And I'm just going to draw a comparison here. Someone who's on a farm and, the cow watering tray just runs on and on and on, and they burn out their pump that's down that well. They're not going to be reaching out to township to help offset the costs for the replacement. So effectively what we're doing, we're saying if you're on water, wastewater, and you have a leak, unbeknownst to you, we're going to put a mechanism in place that will provide you financial relief. There's no such mechanism available to our rural residents who pay for their own water and their own wastewater containment. So I just want to point that out, that this is effectively providing a mechanism for folks that are paying for their water. Well, folks who are in a rural setting are paying for that water too, through electricity, through equipment. Same with septics. They got to get it pumped out. So I'm just saying that it does create a bit of an unequal footing, I think, between our rural and urban residents.
Counselor Moore?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. If I had a leak in my home, if I put myself in that situation, it would never occur to me to call the township. I would call my insurance company. I have insurance for things like that. I think what this would do is open a can of worms for people to make application for reimbursement for things far more than just a simple leak. And then how do we prove that that's actually what occurred? And how are we going to investigate that? So staff time, staff hours, staff resources that are already limited when we already have house insurance. So I am missing the boat maybe on this proposal. I don't get it.
Thank you. Counselor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Taking a step back, there was a couple comments, so I'm going to try to address them all here. I believe Counselor Fisher and Counselor Moore both noted staff time. Absolutely, yes. That's why we should have a staff report come back to make that determination if additional staffing resources are required. And if they are, and this council doesn't want to or doesn't see the need to invest in, then we won't. That's why we have to have the staff report. Counselor Moore, we're not arguing about a policy tonight here. There is no policy on the table. I'm asking for us to start the process to look at it. I'm no experts in leaks. I'm not a plumber. I can't specifically tell you what the investigation process would look like. Do I know that we would be one of a many municipalities in this province that has a prevention program in place? Absolutely. Does it mean that they're handing over fistfuls of money every single water bill? No, it doesn't, because they all specifically have places or plans in place where the one that I noted, you can only use that request once every 10 years. So it's there as a fail-safe. It's also not intended for when your basement floods. That's not what this is. That's not what I'm referencing here. We're talking about, you know, a line in your backyard running to an outbuilding that's been leaking for the last 3.5 months. And you realize, oh, I have a $2,000 water bill. My water bill is normally $600 quarterly. Wow, something's happened here. Let's investigate. Again, it doesn't mean that the municipality is going to also cover that entire bill. I noted the very first thing I said was the water has been utilized, so the water has to be paid for. Maybe I defer to CEO Schmidt to speak about the water rates and how they are calculated, and the cubic meters and whatnot. Again, I am no expert in that field. Understanding that some municipalities, for instance, if they have a increasing block rate structure by cubic meter, I believe that's the term utilized. If a water bill has exceeded a large amount, of course, the water's been utilized, so it has to be paid for. But maybe the overage is charged at the initial base rate that we would all pay for everyday usage. So there might be $50, $100 break to a resident. We're not talking about giving $2,000 water bills away to residents. It's to provide a financial assistance and to show that the municipality is also a partner with our residents. Again, we are not groundbreaking here. This has been around forever, but I would defer to CEO Schmidt to speak about the rate structure, please.
CEO Schmidt?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. With your indulgence, we do actually have our Deputy Treasurer Wazlenko here that is much more well-versed than I am in the rate structure. So she's been sitting here patiently tonight. So if you, with your indulgence, if she could come forward and maybe explain.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
Is the microphone on? Yeah. Thank you, Mayor Coughlin and Deputy Mayor Cabral and members of council. So as far as the rate structure, there is the two parts of the rate structure. So there is your fixed rate charges, which are for the infrastructure of all of the anything to do with the water, and also fixed rate for the sewer as well. But the consumption rate is the one that is the tiered, so it does have the 4-block tier as far as the more you use, the more you pay. That one is to cover the operations and everything to do with the servicing and actually providing the water itself. So whether somebody's consuming water or not, they're going to have the fixed charges, and then the more they consume, they're going to be charged per cubic meter for the consumption rate. Just to touch base on may I comment on any of the other comments?
Yes, please do.
Yes, okay, sorry. As far as how the rate is determined is you're gonna have everything to do with its user based. So everything to do with the water and wastewater services is charged back to all of the users. The comment in regards to having a rural well pump, absolutely agree, but those are that would be technically their infrastructure and their personal property, as well as everybody else has the piping and infrastructure and that are covered through the fixed rates. We do have the MXUs that are installed on all of the properties. So all of the residential properties are equipped with a radio read device that captures 90 days of data. It captures 30 days of data, but it does have a leak detection alarm on the property. That leak detection alarm is held on the MXU for 90 days. That would, when we do the billing cycle, we would get a report to say that there is a number of properties that have detected a leak, and a leak has to be a liter per hour for a 24-hour period of time. So we would actually have the data to say that somebody has experienced leak, and to have that to kind of work back to them. Sorry.
Please continue on. I'll keep track of hands as they come up. Thank you.
I lost my train of thought, so I'll let you continue.
No, it was on how we do have the ability the data to track the leaks.
Yeah, so we do have the internal resources and data to track if a leak has actually occurred at a property. So if somebody's just watering their lawn or using a sprinkler irrigation system, that's not going to trigger a leak on the property, because that's not going to happen for a 24-hour period of time. Generally, hopefully not watering for a 24-hour period of time. So we do actually have the resources internally every time we do a 90-day billing cycle to say that a leak has occurred and to be able to give those properties certain consideration. And it wouldn't be adjusting any fixed rates. Some of the other municipalities are only adjusting the consumption factor on any properties, just to say that if they have experienced a leak of an extensive amount, that it would just be given a financial kind of assistance within the whole user pay system. So it wouldn't actually be touching anybody's taxpayers' dollars. And then, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for that. I do have Councillor Alexander and Councillor Fisher and Councillor Moore, but before I do go, if it was a leak or if it was someone just filling their pool, how would these machines be able to tell the difference?
If they are filling their pool for over a 24-hour period of time, then that's something that it would trigger a leak alarm. However, by going out and seeing that they have a pool on the property, we can usually determine that those wouldn't technically apply. So it's definitely given. We look at the history on the account, so we would see that in May of each year they're putting 200 gallons of water into their pool, or whichever it works out to be. So that's something that would also be taken into consideration when building and looking into the report and all the structure and everything that's going to go into such a policy.
Perfect. Thank you. I have Councillor Alexander, Fisher, and
All right, thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you. That was a lot of information that you just pulled off the top of your head, which was quite impressive. So I worry that this one sets a precedent, and and just different types of leaks, whether, as we said, it's toilets running or maybe an underground sprinkler system. It does set a precedent. I feel like it's potentially the township getting out of their lane. It's our responsibility to look after our own property by then inviting the opportunity for us to go back to the township and say, you know what, there was a mistake on my property. I want you to provide some sort of financial assistance. I'm not sure if that is a direction that I'm comfortable going in. And then I do want to speak to the staff report, because I do understand you are just asking for a staff report with respect to a policy. However, this is a conversation I did have with CAO Schmidt a couple of months ago, and I think it probably stemmed from something that I was upset that information wasn't coming back to me quick enough. And I had to take a bit of ownership in that piece, in that if I'm willing to push forward and vote for a staff report on something I don't really support, then I am giving staff extra work to do on something I'm probably not going to support in the end. So I am, at that point, I feel wasting their time. So that, even though it is just a staff report, if it's something that I can't support moving forward, then unfortunately I can't support it.
I have Councillors Fisher and Moore.
So what I'm taking from this so far is that we can actually provide data to homeowners every 90 days. So they would know if a leak was occurring. To me, that's more than enough notice to a homeowner. And now a homeowner too, when you buy a piece of property or a home, you're inherently taking on the responsibility and the liability with it. So, you know, I've had leaks myself, and I, like Councillor Moore said, I wouldn't dream of taking that to the municipality. That's my responsibility as a homeowner. Also too, you mentioned that if a pool was triggering it, you know, we would go out and check. You know, what I hear there is extra labor. There's lots of pools around. We shouldn't have to go around and check if people have pools, just in that example, right? That's a labor cost as well. It's utilization of labor that, frankly, if we wade into this gray area, we will find ourselves in that situation. And just to echo, I was going to say this, but to echo what Councillor Alexander said, I agree 100%. You know, when we ask for staff reports, it's very easy for us to say, oh, I just want a staff report. It's easy, but that sets off a chain of events where it utilizes staff time where they could be doing other things. So if it's there are certain things we ask for staff reports for that I think are vital and very important. But I think this just it's unnecessary. I think it's maybe not well thought out because it puts us in a gray area. And I will say, you know, one thing that I hadn't thought of, but it certainly strikes a difference between urban dwellers and rural dwellers, because it is their infrastructure. Nobody will compensate them for what they're pumping out of their well. So in the interest of being equal to everybody, you know, I don't think moving forward with this is well thought out.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Through your Mayor Coughlin to Ms. Weslenko. Thank you so much. I was not aware that we had those little alarms on each home, but I think that's fabulous. I'm happy to know that. I have a well and a septic, so I'm not one of those folks that is on your monitoring. But in that, do you have any idea then of how often somebody has gone out when an alarm has been triggered, and how often roughly? I mean, I don't expect you to know exactly, but roughly.
Deputy Weslenko.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through you to Councillor Moore. I don't have that information off the top of my head. We did just recently do the January 31st billing. So we can absolutely gather that data and provide that to you. We don't go out if we know that a leak has occurred on a property. If we do notice that there is a high billing, higher than their regular billing cycle, we will ask for a second check on that read to make sure it is actually an accurate reading. But as far as leaks, if we are aware that a leak has occurred on the property, we don't have anybody go and double check that read. We will send out notification to the homeowner with a letter within their billing to say that a leak has been detected on their property, and to kind of get them to go out, for them to call a plumber and look into their internal plumbing system.
Follow on, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Coughlin to Ms. Weslenko again. Thank you so much. And that's exactly what I would expect. I would expect you to call a plumber. I'd expect you to call your home insurance. And down in Ward 4, particularly, we have a large number of houses, as you know, because you're smiling, with irrigation systems and complaints about high water bills too. You've had them too, CAO Schmidt. Sorry, I just wanted to say that it would be difficult. Ugh, I don't know where you would start, but anyway, go ahead.
CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Ms. Weslenko, if you can maybe just clarify the timing of when we received that leak information, because I just want to make sure that council, you know, if a leak is detected tomorrow, but we don't go out and read the meter for another 45, 50 days, we're not getting that leak detected tomorrow. It's when we next read. So if you can just clarify that piece.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. A leak is detected, it would be, the billing cycle is every 90 days. So if a leak were to occur on day one and they're not aware of it being a leaky toilet, it could occur for 90 days, if not more, because it does take an extra week after that 90 days to get that billing out, and then probably another couple of days for the post office to get that to them. A leak occurring for such a long period of time, we have seen for example, a toilet leak, and there has been bills up towards the $6,000 mark. As far as just a general toilet leak, a lot of people don't hear it. A lot of people don't know to look for it. So those are some of the instances. Is billing every 90 days obviously does pose some complications for detecting leaks within a reasonable timeline.
Thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Deputy Wislanko? Thank you. I appreciate you sticking around to the very end for that. At this time, council, if there's no more questions, Councillor Garwood,
Comment, is that okay?
one final brief comment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just to wrap up, again, it's also something that other municipalities have looked at, is looking at their billing cycle. When we, as Deputy Treasurer Wislanko just noted, if it's not caught, then that bill can also continue to rise up. And we absolutely, in my mind, believe that this is vital. I know others had noted that you only want to support a staff report when you believe it is vital, and I respect that. Of course, I would do the same thing. I believe this one is vital, and I believe it is something that all members of council should have an opportunity before they make a decision, and don't make a decision before the staff report has even come forward. So thank you for the consideration.
Right. At this time, I will call the vote, please. All those in favor? And this has been defeated. Are there any other items for future consideration? Not seeing any, what's gone? Any other notice of motion? May I have a mover and seconder for the approval of the bylaws, please? I have Councillor Garwood and Councillor Fisher. That bylaws listed herein be sealed, signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 5000-381 LH 2024-001 2114 South Ore Lake Road. Are there any comments or questions? All those in favor? That has carried. And may I have a mover and seconder for the confirmation bylaw, please? Councillors Alexander and Moore, that bylaw 2024-011 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on February 7th, 2004, listed here and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? That has carried. And to adjourn, please. I have Councillors Moore and Deputy Cabral that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 8:28 p.m. to meet again on February 21st, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried.